All right, guys. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Keep Talking Sports on this March 22nd, 2026. It's been a little while since I talked sports. I did a little podcast with my partner Josh a couple of weeks ago. We shot the breeze for shooting the breeze, as we say. But I haven't done sports in a while, and a lot has happened in the last couple of months since the last sports talk show I did. Listen, I don't know why I've been away from this for a little while, but you got to be in a certain mindset to get these podcasts done. You got to be, you got to be alive. You got to be interested. You got to be, sports is pissing me off a little bit lately. I mean, especially since the Mets got rid of Pete. That brought me down a little bit, but you know what? We're going to be okay. Today, we're going to get into a little bit of the WBC. We're going to get into MLB. We're going to talk about the NFL, and we're going to talk about a football game that I watched yesterday that I found very, very interesting. As a matter of fact, I found it a lot more interesting than the NFL's Pro Bowl that they decide to put on at the end of the season. So I'm going to get into that in a couple of minutes as well. But first off, I'd like to talk about baseball. Now, baseball to me is by far my favorite sport. Look, I love basketball. I love football. I like hockey. But baseball by far is my favorite sport. I loved watching my children play. I loved coaching it. And even as a kid, I loved going to Shea Stadium and watching my Mets. There's something about baseball that's nostalgic. I mean, everybody can remember where they were when they saw their favorite player hit a game-winning home run or a Game 7 World Series victory. Every Yankee fan remembers where they were when the Boston Red Sox came back and beat them to go to the World Series back in 2004. Because up 3-0, Yankees thought they were going to another World Series. And know what? Here come the Boston Red Sox. David Ortiz murdered them that year. But you know what, though? The thing I'm trying to say is that everybody knew exactly where they were when something good or bad happened to their favorite team or their favorite player. Every year around this time, you start to think about the crack of the bat. You start to think about the ball hitting that leather glove. There's something about going outside. If you're a dad, you could hear what I could talk to what I'm saying right now. You could hear what I'm saying. Going outside and having a catch with your sons or daughters, to me, is one of the, it's time well spent. So much stuff you could talk about. So many things. You just catch up. I mean, just having a catch with your son. I mean, when I go outside there with Aiden and Jack and they say, Dad, let's go outside and have a catch, it's the greatest thing ever. Because you get out there in March and you're still a little, your arm's still a little tight. You throw the ball back and forth, but it's time spent. Nothing like hearing the baseball hit that leather glove, the crack of the bat, the smell of the grass. I mean, if you really want to get into it, I could remember exactly where I was the day I became a New York Mets fan. Now, the day I became a New York Mets fan was back in 1976. And look, my dad could easily take me to Yankee Stadium, being the fact that he was a Yankee fan. But he took me to Shea Stadium because that's where we had tickets. And I know we'll talk about this time in history all the time. And I haven't done a podcast in a while, so maybe a lot of you guys haven't heard this. But the day I fell in love with the New York Mets had nothing to do with the New York Met that stayed a New York Met for his whole career, or not even more than 2 years. It was 1976. My father took me to a baseball game at Shea Stadium. At this point, I had just turned 4. Man, I was 5 years old. I remember I was 5 years old. We're in Shea Stadium, and here comes Dave Kingman. Now, many of you guys Met fans out there, older like me, remember Dave Kingman. He struck out a lot, but he hit a lot of home runs, played for a lot of teams. George Foster and him were old at the time they came to the Mets. But I remember being 5 years old in Shea Stadium and watching Dave Kingman hit a baseball so far over the wall that I swear it could have broken one of my windows in my apartment back in Flushing. And I said, wow, I cannot believe a human being could hit a baseball that far. And it just roped me right in. Little did I know I was being roped into being a Mets fan, which I guess a lot of us could compare to being a disaster. I mean, look, let's be honest. 1986 was a long time ago. As a matter of fact, 1986 was about 40 years ago. 40 years since the last time the New York Mets have even made it to a World Series. Now, look, 2 years ago, I thought they kind of would have been there. But like that season went, they built us all the way up just to get to a point where we just didn't get there. And that's exactly what my Mets fandom has been for all these years. We have a good team, we almost get there, and then they disappoint us. Or we just have that regular run-of-the-mill season that they just completely suck. We yell and scream about trade this one, trade that one. It's this one's fault. It's that one's fault. But at the end of the day, being a Mets fan is very hard. Being a Yankee fan is fine. As a matter of fact, being a Yankee fan is somewhat of a, I guess when you think about it, and I don't like hearing these guys say it either. It's almost like they think that they're supposed to win the World Series every year. And if they don't, everybody sucks and it's everybody else's fault. And fuck my team. I hate the Yankees and get rid of Cashman and the manager sucks. You got 27 World Series. You're looking at a Met fan who has seen one win in my 53 years on this planet. And let's not even get into football with the Jets, because the Jets have not given me nothing but misery. They're the worst team in my lineup of teams that I like to root for. Back in 2023, the Mets made it all the way to the NLCS just to be taken out by the Los Angeles Dodgers, who in turn won the World Series that year over the New York Yankees. So 2023, excitement. Look, do we really think that they were going to win the World Series that year? Probably not. But the hype, the getting there, made it almost able to happen. We were like, wow, we're here. If we beat the Dodgers, there is no way on earth if we beat the Dodgers, we are not winning the World Series. And you know how that went. We lost in, I think we lost in 5 games. Dodgers kicked our ass and they went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series. So going into 2024, it was exciting. We expect to get to the World Series. And what happened in 2025? I know I said 2024. I guess I misspoke. But what happened in 2025? We didn't even make the playoffs. I was sad because nothing's worse than getting yourself up to a point where, all right, we didn't make it last year, but we still have this guy. We still have that guy. The manager's good. Our pitching staff's good. We got Pete. We can make it. Lindor was playing like an MVP that year. We can make it. But last year, we didn't even make the playoffs. I guess that you could say that hurt a little bit. But you know what, though? Back to my feelings on baseball. There's nothing like opening day because it's a new, fresh start. It's a fresh start for your baseball team that you said all sorts of terrible things about at the end of the season, how I'm never going to watch you guys again because you suck. You spend all this money. The ticket prices are so high. But at the end of the day, you know we're coming back. We're coming back for all our teams because we could be passionately following our team. And the reason we get so mad is because we are passionate about that prospective sport. Now, before I get into the season that I think the Mets are going to have and the MLB as a whole, I want to talk about one thing real quick. I want to talk about the WBC, the World Baseball Classic. I watched it, had its ups and downs, and I feel, now, look, this is just my feeling by watching it. I enjoyed watching the other teams play better than I enjoyed watching the United States. Now, everybody's talking about how the United States was all there on business. They just wanted to get there and they wanted to win. They weren't shaking anybody's hand. As a matter of fact, I think it was Cal Raleigh or one of those guys when the no handshake with Randy Rosarina came. I think it was Cal Raleigh that said, our manager, Mark DeRosa, said that we're supposed to be there focused, all business, no handshaking. I don't care if they're your teammates. Now, that's all well and good, but from what I just said to you before, baseball is supposed to be fun. And that took all the fun out of it. I mean, they're talking about the Dominican team. They're talking about the Venezuelan team, the Nicaraguan team, the Puerto Rican team. Now, look at all the fun that they were having in the dugout. Look at all the fun they were having when a home run was hit, when a pitcher pitched well. Now, I don't know if anybody out there listening has had a son or a daughter that played in travel sports, but I can remember going to these tournaments with Aiden and Jack. And, we would cheer. We had a pretty loud team. I was very well known for cheering and, getting real loud and having a lot of excitement and, a lot of positive reinforcement and cheering and whistling. And our team was pretty loud and, we prided ourselves on that. But there was always in that tournament where you'd be coming around the corner, you'd be seeing pots and pans and whistles and screaming and yelling in Spanish. And I would look over and there'd be this team of Dominican kids that are like 12 years old, at a travel baseball tournament. And it seems like the entire area of, let's just say the team came from Washington Heights. It just seems like the entire neighborhood came up to watch these kids play baseball. It was beautiful. Some people didn't like it because they thought maybe it was loud, maybe it was obnoxious, a lot of the pots and pans and the whistles. But I saw that as passion. And if you look at these other teams that played in this World Baseball Classic, like the Dominican team, the Venezuelan team in particular, they were shaking each other's hands. They were hugging each other. They were cheering. They were laughing. They were happy. Even in losses, they were so sad because the happiness was just ripped away from them. So by Venezuela beating the United States, I kind of just looked at it as, you know what? The United States didn't even really care. I mean, look, you could say that because we are the United States, right? The United States got up there. You should say that lineup from top to bottom should have been hitting 400 that entire tournament. Look, yes, they were playing against major league talent, right? They were. But they were pitching on the other side in these Spanish teams. And look, the Italians, I don't know what the hell. They're a bunch of Italian Americans that play for their respective team in the United States. But they weren't expected to go as far as they did, and they beat us. And I really do think that no matter who would have won that game between Venezuela and the Venezuela and Italy, either one of those teams would have beaten us that night. Because if you want to really look at their faces, yeah, it's okay to be focused. Yeah, it's okay to just have a team mentality and not worry about anything else and block everything else out. But none of those guys were having any fun. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've seen any one of those players smiling for any one of those games. I mean, maybe you could say it was Mark DeRosa pounding it into him, say it's supposed to be business, but none of those guys were having fun. Now, I don't know if you guys watched the United States hockey team maybe 2 weeks prior to the World Baseball Classic happening. Professional hockey players playing on the United States team. Did they, or was I the only one watching Jack Hughes get his teeth knocked out, and then about a minute and a half later scoring the winning goal so the United States could gather up their gold medals and cheer and yell and scream and be a bunch of men on the ice happy for each other? The kid got his teeth knocked out and then jumped right back on the ice and scored the winning goal to get the gold medal. Now, if you want to look at the lineup, the United States team, everybody's giving Aaron Judge shit. Now, I'm going to take the high road here, okay? I'm going to take the high road because it's been back and forth. Nolan McLean sucks. He shouldn't have been pitching. He gave up all these home runs. Aaron Judge from our side. Aaron Judge, he batted 200. 2 home runs. I think he had a couple of RBIs. Captain of the team. But you want to look at this lineup and tell me that every single one of these men that were in this starting lineup couldn't have been the guy? It's not like Aaron Judge is on the Yankees right now. And look, he's Aaron Judge. He's supposed to come in to the clutch and hit that big home run to catapult their team to a win, not strike out with the bases loaded, not drop fly balls in the outfield. That's Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. He's the man on that team. The World Baseball Classic had a lineup that kind of sort of went like this. You had players like Alex Bregman, Bryce Harper, Gunnar Henderson, Bryce Turang, Bobby Witt, Roman Anthony, Byron Buxton, Pete Crow Armstrong, Kyle Schwarber, Alex Bregman. I know I said his name. These are players that on their prospective team that they're looked at to come up in a big spot and get the big hit. So to say that losing the World Baseball Classic is solely on the shoulders of Aaron Judge, who happened to strike out in 2 or 3 big spots during the World Baseball Classic, Yeah, you could say he could have hit that home run. Yeah, he said he could have gotten a big hit. But there was 8 other men in that lineup that could have done the same thing. And none of them at all in that game played the way that that Venezuelan team played. Now, if you want to look at that Venezuelan team, look, they from top to bottom had a great lineup. They were amazing. They completely deserved to win the World Baseball Classic. And you got to give kudos to Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper didn't smile once during that whole World Baseball Classic. As a matter of fact, I think he was joking about it and saying that, it didn't really matter, or he was very poo-poo about it. But when Venezuela was on that field cheering that they had won the World Baseball Classic, Bryce Harper went out on that field and shook every single one of their hands and completely brought back the respect that baseball is supposed to have. Completely brought back the handshake at the end of a game. They don't do that in professional baseball anymore. I just remember, coaching my kids, and at the end of every game, we'd shake hands no matter what. And maybe that got lost in college. I mean, I know they still did it in high school, but by Bryce Harper going out there and shaking every one of those guys' hands on Venezuelan team, that kind of brought a little semblance back to, wow, they're a bunch of little kids, and they got beat, and they went out there and they shook hands of the opposing team who completely deserved to win that baseball game. You could say Nolan McLean maybe should have pitched a little better. He pitched like shit the last 2 games. Look, he had about 8 strikeouts, but gave up 2 huge home runs in the first game and a couple of huge hits in the championship game. So again, you can't put this solely on the shoulders of Nolan McLean, who's a young kid, 26, 27 years old, going right into his first full season of becoming a professional pitcher. Yeah, he pitched great last year. Yeah, but in the playoffs, gave up a couple of big hits. And I don't know. I'm a little worried about that kid. If they're going to figure him out quickly. He's got a lot of movement on his fastball. But you know what? I'm very, very afraid that they're going to figure that kid out, because in the World Baseball Classic, they figured it out. And let's not get this confused. Venezuela had a road. I mean, they beat the Japanese team to make it to the World Baseball Classic. Now, Japan, on paper, if you want to look at it, they probably do have one of the best teams in the world. As a matter of fact, who didn't not love it at the end of the day? I didn't like it because Mike Trout struck out, but what better position could it be? Shohei Ohtani pitching to Mike Trout in the bottom of the 9th to win the World Baseball Classic, and Ohtani shuts down Trout and strikes him out. Very, very humiliating for the United States team, and Japan goes on to win the World Baseball Classic that year. Japan got knocked out by a Venezuelan team that was hungry, excited, and wanted to win, and they walked away with the big trophy. Now, that being said, the World Baseball Classic's not going to come back for another couple of years, probably 3 years. Whether they're going to take it seriously or not, who knows? But we'll see then. And all you guys out there that are saying that this World Baseball Classic sucks, or they should be focusing on their team. Yeah, I guess maybe they should. But to have pride for your country, the hockey players take that a whole lot differently than the baseball players do. Hockey players go 1,000 miles an hour every minute. Baseball, they don't do that. They're worried about their money. They're worried about their contracts. They're worried about getting hurt. They're worried about Tommy John surgery. They're worried about pulling a hamstring. They're worried about, stubbing their toe. These baseball players got to kind of get it together a little bit, and, they got to play like men, some of them. Some of these guys, I don't understand it. They just, and I don't even know what I'm really even trying to say. What I'm really trying to say is money in general has destroyed professional sports because everybody thinks that they're bigger than the game. Long time ago, when these guys had to show up to spring training because they were bagging groceries at the local grocery store, or they had to show up to spring training because they had to go to spring training. They had to quit their jobs and go play baseball. But then the money starts getting involved. Then the players start making more than the managers, and they think that they're better than the manager. And who are you to tell me what to do? Attitudes start. So money, look, these guys do deserve to make the money that they're making, no matter how many out there think that they don't. The billions and billions of dollars that the owners are making on these players is ridiculous. So yeah, these salaries should be high. Yeah, these players do deserve this money, but I do think money as a whole has destroyed professional sports. Money in a hole has destroyed everything. We're in a war right now because of money. It's all money. If we were to get rid of monetary stuff or money not really meaning anything and just humanity, this world would be a lot better place. But then how would we buy nice things? Well, that's kind of my take on the World Baseball Classic. I don't think that the United States team played to their full potential. I think every single other team that was invited there, they did play to their full potential. Even the major league players that were playing on their respective countries, like Juan Soto saying it was more fun to play on the Dominican team than it is to play in the major leagues. He was not talking about the Mets in general. He was just talking about the major leagues in general. He had more fun playing with his people from his home country than he did playing in the major leagues. So stop the narrative that he's unhappy being a Met. Stop the narrative that he looked a lot happier playing with the Yankees. You guys have no idea what goes through that guy's mind, Juan Soto. What I do know about Juan Soto, what I am going to tell you in a minute is Shohei Ohtani this year is going to be Shohei Ohtani. But right on the heels of possibly another MVP for Shohei Ohtani is going to be Juan Soto this year. Juan Soto is primed to win an MVP. And I'm tired of Shohei Ohtani. Now, I don't want to get this confused saying that I'm tired of Shohei Ohtani, that he doesn't deserve the MVP. The guy's the best player in the world. He does deserve to get that MVP. And in no way, shape, or form do I think that they should give the award to somebody else because the same guy gets it every single year. Kind of like in the NBA when you'll call it the LeBron James Award. Well, fuck LeBron James. And there is some good baseball players in the major leagues right now. And Shohei Ohtani is completely deserving. The guy had 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases last year. He pitched. He gets big hits. He is the best player by far. Not by far. He's the best player in the major leagues right now. But Juan Soto, guys like him, even Lindor came close 2 years ago. And name your other guy. Tatis played well. Machado. There's some really good baseball players that could definitely come after Shohei Ohtani this year for the MVP of the league. But Juan Soto, you had 40-40 last year. You're more comfortable in the New York Mets uniform this year. Just because you don't smile and just because they think you don't have any friends or just because they think that, you make all this money and everybody's insinuating stuff about Juan Soto that nobody even knows about. Maybe this guy is a quiet guy. Maybe this guy is more comfortable around people from his home country and not American baseball players. Bottom line is the guy's making almost $800 million to play a game that kids love. And he showed that love for baseball while playing in the World Baseball Classic. I hope that translates this year to my New York Mets because he's going to be batting second in a lineup this year that at the beginning, I'll be honest, they started selling away all their players. We got rid of Nimmo. We're like, holy shit, they got rid of Nimmo. Got rid of McNeil. I wanted McNeil gone anyway, so that really didn't bother me. Then you get rid of Diaz, and you find out that Diaz wanted to stay, and the Mets didn't even offer him a contract. That's all water under the bridge, too. There's nothing we could do about it. I hope Diaz gets shelled on his first outing. As a matter of fact, I would love the NLCS to happen again, where it's the New York Mets against the Los Angeles Dodgers in a Game 7. Diaz coming in with a 3-2 lead to save the game. Francisco Lindor on second base because he just hit a double. And then Juan Soto hits a game-winning 2-run home run to take the Mets to the World Series over a pitch right down the middle from Edwin Diaz. That is something I would love to see. Is it going to happen? I think it might, because this year's Mets team, though I was the other guys really didn't bother me that much. Diaz bothered me a little bit because now we got a closer that we don't know what we're going to get out of him. Nimmo really didn't bother me. McNeil definitely didn't bother me. There is one that bothered me. Pete bothered me. And when you find out that they didn't even offer Pete a contract, that he got a contract from the Baltimore Orioles and it went back to the New York Mets, and New York Mets said, well, have a nice life, Pete. Enjoy Baltimore. They kind of disrespected him a little bit, which is fine. But we can't really sit here now and just say, oh, we miss Pete. We miss Pete. Yeah, we're going to miss Pete. Yeah, I'm probably going to try and go see him when Baltimore comes to Citi Field, I think in July. But Pete Alonso, we are going to be rooting for you from afar. He's not playing that well in spring training. I do, however, think that instead of Paul Goldschmidt, he should have been that DH on the World Baseball Classic. But that's neither here nor there. So, Pete, we are going to be rooting for you from afar, and good luck out there. As for the New York Mets, this year's team looks a lot different than it did last year. Last year's lineup went like this: Lindor leading off, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil, and sometimes not, Tyrone Taylor, who I happen to love, who's going to be a fourth outfielder this year, and I'm glad that he is still on the team. As a matter of fact, I think that's a jersey I'm going to go out and get a Tyrone Taylor because he's still going to be there. He's not going to play much, but he's going to be there. Now, that was our lineup that we had last year. And again, Met fans, on paper, there's new faces, there's new names, there's players that haven't played with each other. There's even players that are playing out of position just to get into this lineup. But listen to this lineup right now. Leading off as usual, we got my guy, Francisco Lindor, playing shortstop. Batting second, switching positions from right to left field this year, is going to be Juan Soto, who I think is going to make a run for an MVP. Batting third, okay? Now, when the Mets let Pete Alonso go, when Kyle Tucker signed that ridiculous contract over there with the Dodgers, I don't know what the Dodgers are doing over there, but the way they are doing their contracts is smart. But I think Kyle Tucker just went there so he could play with a bunch of superstars. So we lose Kyle Tucker, we lose Pete Alonso, and we lose out on a couple of these big free agents. So the next day, Steve Cohen goes out and gets one Bo Bichette. You want to look at Bo Bichette as somebody who's an okay fielder. The kid can hit. He's going to be playing third base this year. It's a position that he's not used to playing. It's a position that he's going to have to kind of grow into a little bit. But the way Bo Bichette hits the baseball and the way he's going to be batting third in this lineup, growing pains at third base, I'll take them. Because you know what? Those growing pains are going to grow into something that's going to be electric. Because Bo Bichette is one of the best pure hitters in baseball right now. He's not the best, but he's definitely one of the best. And he's batting third in our lineup. And I'm very happy to have Mr. Bo Bichette batting third and playing third base for the New York Mets. This one right here was a little head scratcher, but let's see what happens. Placido Polanco, first base. Look, the guy came from Seattle, played well, hit for a decent average. He hit some home runs. But as far as a first baseman, another experiment that we don't know is going to happen. Is it going to go well? Maybe. We hope so. But it could blow up. Brett Beatty could be playing first base in a couple weeks, and Polanco could be the DH. We never know. But the fact of the matter is, there's going to be a different first baseman in Placido Polanco. Lindor is going to have to kind of like get them throws up a little bit because Pete bailed him out a lot last year. We do have, though, for Francisco Lindor is a much better counterpart batting fifth at second base in Marcus Semien. Now, the guy's been around the block a couple of times. He's getting a little bit older, but his glove is still solid. Now, that's going to make Francisco Lindor a better shortstop because I feel that with Jeff McNeil, at second base and, Acuna at second base and kind of like, a different guy every other week, I think with Marcus Semien on this baseball team, he could kind of settle down and realize that he's going to have the same second baseman every day. He's got a good glove and rapport is going to be everything because Lindor may not think that he has to do too much on the left side of the field. He may have to compromise on his right side because Bo Bichette may not be that good. But Lindor turning double plays and having a little bit more confidence on the second base position is going to help his glove. Maybe another gold glove this year. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he got a gold glove. Maybe he'll get a gold glove this year. But the fact of the matter is Francisco Lindor's fielding is going to get a lot better knowing Marcus Semien is at second base. Now, Simeon's got to show a little bit with his bat. Like I said, he's getting older. He could still steal some bases. But I got to tell you right now, I'm happy to have him at second base, and I think this is going to work out. Beatty is up in the air. Now, I'm glad they didn't trade Beatty. Beatty in the beginning of the season looked at as a little bit of trade bait. The guy could hit. He could play first. He could play second. He could play third. He's a good utility player. But right now, he's going to be slated as our DH. He also could move in there and play a little first base if Polanco doesn't work out. If Bichette doesn't, work out at third base, he could jump out at third base. We don't know what we're going to do with Bichette, but we're going to have to get it in the lineup. So Bichette's going to be playing third base. But Beatty might be playing some first base. But right now, we got him batting sixth as our DH. I know the kids want to get out there and he's going to want to play the field, but you know what, Brett Beatty, you hit really good at the end of the season last year. Let's do it good in the DH role and fill in it first and fill in when we can. So we got Brett Beatty as our DH. Francisco Alvarez. Francisco Alvarez is still going through some growing pains. The guy could hit the ball 600 feet, but he's got the same swing. Do not, under any circumstances, throw Francisco Alvarez a high fastball. Because if you throw him a high fastball, he's going to take it 600 feet, and you're going to be crying on the mound. But anywhere else around the plate, he's got that same swing. Hopefully he talked to somebody this year. Hopefully the hitting coach said something to him. He's 4 years in the league right now. He's got to get a little more discipline at the plate and not swing so much. He's got to switch up his swing a little bit. Maybe he's got to switch up his hands. But he's got to do something because he can hit the ball a country mile. He does kick ass. He hits the ball far. He gets a lot of doubles. He's very, very excitable. And he's a really, really good catcher. He's got a good rapport with the pitchers. The pitchers like him. Even back when we had Max Scherzer even liked him as a rookie. So right now, you got Francisco Alvarez and Luis Torrens is still on the team. So they're going to switch, at catcher here and there. But hopefully Francisco Alvarez gets to play hopefully over maybe about 110 to 120 games this year. And Luis Torrens can maybe DH every once in a while. And maybe when Alvarez wants a break, he could slide in there a catcher. But for right now, Francisco Alvarez is going to be our opening day starting catcher. Center field. Center field has been a thorn in our side for years. We have not had a guy that could play the position and hit. Last year, like I said, I love Tyrone Taylor. He's a really, really good fielder. The guy's got like 3 home runs in his Major League Baseball career. He hits okay. He'll get that random double and a triple in a game, but then he'll go 0 for 20. Tyrone Taylor is a good fielder, but he's not as good a fielder as our acquisition in Luis Robert Jr. If Luis Robert Jr., and I know he's got the potential to do it, he is an electric center fielder. He is going to cover ground. He's going to cover the ground that maybe Juan Soto can't cover in left field. Carson Benj, the new guy in right field, I'll get to in a second. He's going to be probably our right fielder. But Luis Robert playing center field right now is going to be a game changer for the New York Mets. Like I said, the guy's a great center fielder. And not to mention, he could hit pretty good too. So we got him batting down towards the bottom of our lineup. And that leads me to our right fielder, Carson Benj, who's been trying to make this team all spring. And you know what? By batting over 400, by playing a field well, by being an exciting teammate, by being young and full of piss and vinegar, Carson Benj might turn out to be the right fielder that's going to play that position every single day. I just hope his arm could hold up because Soto had a decent arm. And he's no, what's his name? I forgot who the right fielder was we had a couple of years ago. Cespedes. Cespedes had a fantastic arm. Carson Benj is young. He's going to have to grow into his right field position. But right now, Carson Benj is our right fielder. Now, right there, Lindor, Soto, Bichette, Polanco, Simeon, Beatty, Alvarez, Luis Robert, and Carson Benj. That, to me, on paper, and that's all we have right now is on paper because this team has yet to play one, league game. It's all been spring training. When they get out there on the field on opening day, we're going to see what that lineup can do. And we're going to see if they all mesh. We're going to see if Lindor and Simeon could get it together and turn in double plays. We're going to see if Luis Robert is as good a center fielder as we think he is. We're going to see if Soto could play left field. Hopefully he can. Right now, this Mets lineup, to me, is better than last year's lineup, and it's going to be better for our future. So this year, the Mets, you have no choice in my eyes. You have to make the playoffs. You got a big payroll. You're paying these guys a lot of money. Steve Cohen promised the World Series within 5 years. Look, Steve, it's been 3. It's time. And you know what's going to help out big time is the acquisition of Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is our opening day starter. Came from the Milwaukee Brewers. Fantastic pitcher. He was their number 1. As a matter of fact, I guess he's our number 1 now. Yep. He is our number 1 starting pitcher, Freddie Peralta. And if all goes well, he's going to get a big contract from Steve Cohen because I don't think he signed an extension. He's going to be here right now for 1 season. In this 1 season, Freddie Peralta, go for a Cy Young. I know you've been top 5, but let's go for that top position and get a Cy Young in a New York Mets uniform. Because right now, this New York Mets rotation looks like this. Peralta, Peterson, Nolan McLean. Listen, I'm a little worried about you, Nolan. You didn't look too good in the World Baseball Classic. You gave up a bunch of runs in the playoff last year. I understand you're still young. Well, you're not really young. You're young as a professional baseball player, but you got to get some discipline. You can't go in there, strike out 8, and let up 3 home runs. Yeah, the 8 strikeouts looks good on paper, but those 3 big home runs is going to lose you baseball games. So Nolan McLean, put your fucking big boy pants on this year and pitch for my New York Mets. Clay Holmes pitched okay, but you can see he got a little bit tired last year. And then our 5th starter right now is somebody who I thought had no gas left in the tank. Wound up, he was injured. He's got that ghost forkball. He's a Japanese pitcher in Kodai Senga. If Kodai Senga is 100% healthy, if he's got that forkball going, he's got that ghost fork, he's got a little bit of a fastball, if he is on point and he's our number 5 starter, I am perfectly okay with that rotation. Everybody says that the rotation is going to be our weak point. Not with the acquisition of Freddie Peralta, not with Nolan McLean pitching the way he's supposed to pitch, not with Jonah Tong, another young arm that wants to come into this rotation and get a spot. He's going to be in there this year at some point as a starting pitcher. We got our relievers, Luke Weaver, Brazaban, Brooks Raley. Okay, on paper, looks all right. Brazaban's okay. Luke Weaver, ex-Yankee. He's going to come in and do some good relief for us. But now we got a closer in Devin Williams. Everybody on the New York Mets remembers Devin Williams as the pitcher that gave up the big home run from Pete Alonso to catapult us past the wild card and into the playoffs. Devin Williams did not pitch well for the Yankees last year in the closing role. Devin Williams is somebody who pitched well in Milwaukee, and then once he left Milwaukee, he's like, wow, as soon as he leaves, and as soon as he leaves his team and he goes somewhere else, he's an okay pitcher. Devin Williams has it in him to become a great closer. Now we got to see it unfold on the baseball field. So he's going to be our closer this year. Edwin Diaz, I hate to say it, but hope you blow out your shoulder in the first couple of weeks because now you're going to be happy, right? You're going to want to win a World Series. You're going to go to the Dodgers because they always win. Let's take this New York Mets team to a World Series. Let's beat the Dodgers and anybody else that's in our way this year. And let's make the World Series and make Met fans happy because this is the year, guys. This is the year. Last year was the year. Last year's gone, and this year is the year. And I know as a Met fans say this every year. It's time for it to start yapping. Everybody says, oh, the Mets are great until June. And then June, we're done. Even May. But this is a team that could put up a lot of runs. I think we have one of the top 2 best players in baseball on our team right now, and he's probably going to get MVP this year. So the New York Mets, opening day, coming up soon, opening up against the Pittsburgh Pirates and Paul Skeens. Now let's see what Paul Skeens right now is the best pitcher in baseball, I think. Well, one of them anyway. So what better way to open up our season against one of the best pitchers in baseball and Paul Skeens and see how we do. New York Mets, it's on your shoulders now. We watched you in spring training. We saw you guys in the World Baseball Classic. Now everybody's back to their respective teams. Baseball is about to start. And if you're anything like me and love baseball the way I love baseball, the smell of the grass, the crack of the bat, the ball hitting that leather, let's go. And let's go Mets. So that's my take on what's going to happen in baseball this year. I could go, further into it. I could break down other teams, but that's going to be for another day because I'm really excited about the New York Mets. I got some things to say about the New York Yankees too. I also got some things to say about the New York Yankee fans. But how about we start from scratch this year, Yankee fans? All right? And how about we stop with the bullshit? How about we stop, Met fans and Yankee fans, just saying stuff just to piss off each other? How about we you stick to your side of the fence, I'll stick to my side of the fence, and if all goes well, we meet in a World Series, and then you could talk all the shit you want. But other than that, Yankee fans, shut the fuck up about the Mets. And Met fans, shut the fuck up about the Yankees. Let's worry about our own team. We happen to play in the same city, and let's just root for both of them. Let's root for a New York World Series this year. Then talk all the shit you want. But until then, let's let the Yankees play in the Bronx, and let's let the Mets play in Queens. That's my take on the New York Mets this year. I think the New York Mets going to be pretty good. I'm hoping for a first place finish. We got the Phillies in there that might have something to do with it. The Braves are still going to be pretty good. The Marlins are actually a young team. They're going to want to make some noise this year too. So let's see. We got a pretty strong division. The AL East is always good. The Red Sox are going to be better. The Blue Jays are obviously still good. They lost in the World Series. But you know what? Baseball is starting and baseball is happening. So let's get excited and let's go Mets. Now, we're going to cover a couple of things with the NFL. But first, I want to start with something that I watched yesterday. There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the videos of Tom Brady and Logan Paul talking shit with each other. Now, maybe I guess being that Logan Paul's a wrestler and Tom Brady just loves to talk shit. And he's he's a consummate promoter. Fanatic, the guy at Fanatics Fest loves this guy. Tom Brady's in bed with him. So maybe he's just, pumping it up. But the back and forth banter between Tom Brady and Logan Paul unfolded yesterday in a Fanatics Fest flag football game. I mean, many of you are going to say, a Fanatics Fest flag football game? It's like, that's bullshit. Let me tell you something. I watched a little bit of that game yesterday, and I'm not saying it's real football. And I'm not saying it's anything that's going to catch on or take off. But I was more entertained by watching that football game yesterday, a flag football game, than what the NFL has been trying to do with the Pro Bowl over the last couple of years. The Pro Bowl, the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game, and all these professional sports have their All-Star games. They are terrible. They're not entertaining in the least. We know what we're going to get. And we just got to do something about that because it's unwatchable. But this Fanatics Fest yesterday was kind of interesting. You had a bunch of NFL players playing against a couple of YouTubers. Now, I'm going to take two YouTubers specifically. I'm going to tell you exactly why the both of them were there. Logan Paul said a couple of weeks ago that he could keep up and he's in better shape than NFL football players. He even went so far as to say that he scored 19 touchdowns in high school football and whatever. He was just talking shit about being either in better shape or being able to keep up with NFL players. Okay. I like Tom Brady's response was Derrick Henry scored 97 touchdowns in his sophomore year in high school. And Logan Paul's talking about 19 touchdowns. But there was two YouTubers there specifically that were in this flag football game. And I know they were there for a reason. Logan Paul was there to do exactly what he did yesterday. Now, if you watch this game yesterday, he was the guy that just ran up the middle and chased the quarterback. He went 1,000 miles an hour every single snap of that football game. Now, you want to say that some of the banter was kind of WWE-like. Tom Brady threw the football at him, and he was yelling and screaming at him, and Tom Brady didn't say nothing back, really. He looked a little mad. Maybe if that was all pomp and circumstance, I don't know. But what I did see is Logan Paul running after the quarterback all day long. That's why he was where he was. He was there to be shut up and say, listen, these NFL players are in pretty damn good shape. Put on some pads now, and then we'll see. But you know what? You got to give Logan Paul a little bit of credit. He is the consummate entertainer. He does like to talk shit. But you know what? Yesterday, I guess it was proven that the NFL players are some pretty damn good athletes. Then you have another guy. Now, I happen to love this kid. I think he's super entertaining. I think he's funny. And I guess he's probably the biggest YouTuber in the world right now. He had made a comment a couple of weeks ago that he is faster than any wide receiver in the NFL. Now, look, this kid is super fast. If you haven't known what I'm talking about I Show Speed. The kid's got millions and millions and millions of followers on his YouTube channel. He's super entertaining. He's fast. He's athletic. He's a track star in high school. But watching him yesterday try to keep up with Devontae Smith and all these other high-level NFL wide receivers was actually kind of entertaining. And that just goes to show, watching these two YouTubers, yeah, these guys are in really good shape. Logan Paul's in great shape. I Show Speed's in great shape. But are you guys in NFL football player shape? To me, I don't think so. These guys go through some grueling camps. They are the top athletes in the country at their respective sport. to have a YouTuber tell them that they're better than them at their sport. Yesterday was fun to watch, but there definitely was a little bit of fuck you and all those guys saying, speed, yeah, man, you're fast, but can you catch me? Logan Paul, yeah, you're big and strong, but can you block me? And yesterday, the NFL players showed that they can go back to being YouTubers and they could go back to being track stars. And Logan Paul could go back to doing his podcast because he got the shit beat out of him in boxing. He got his jaw broken. So I don't know when the next time he's going to go into boxing is. My advice to him is grab your brother, become the tag team champions in the WWE, and just stick to your lane. The NFL is full of athletes and men that take that shit seriously. That's why the jump from college to professionals is so huge. You could have a professional football player that wins a Heisman Trophy in college, and then they jump up, and then they're looking on the other side of the line at somebody that's getting paid $60 million to kill you. There's a big difference between somebody that's in college and somebody that's being paid a lot of money to kill you. And this is what we're going to find out this year in the NFL. We're going to find this out every year because you know how many times that a football player wins a Heisman and then he just disappears. You know why? Because you're playing against men who are getting paid to do their job. And their job is to score touchdowns or kill you. And that's the bottom line. Yesterday was entertaining. I would definitely watch it. I went to Fanatics Fest last year with my son and his friend Steve. We had a good time. And we're going to go again this year. And this Fanatics football game yesterday, yeah, everybody was making fun of it. But you know what, though? It was a lot more entertaining than the product that the NFL puts out in the Pro Bowl. That's my take on the Fanatics Fest yesterday. Now, my New York Jets. Where do I start? The New York Jets, every single year, they give me nothing but heartache. They give me a sense of, I don't even know what the right word to use is. Watching last year was some of the worst football I've ever seen in my life. Justin Fields is our quarterback. Tyrone Taylor, backup. Garrett Wilson kind of just, what the hell is going on? We have a top-level wide receiver, and we could not get the fucking football to him. Our defense sucked last year. Our offense sucked last year. Aaron Glenn, in his freshman year as a head coach, had shit on his face. He looked like he did not know what was going on. Now, granted, he didn't have the backup supporting cast. It was his first season. He was a defensive coordinator, came from the Detroit Lions, where the Detroit Lions had a pretty good defense. Now he's a head coach. He needs to go into this season with a brand new outlook. They caught him sleeping a couple of weeks ago at the combine. Maybe he didn't see anything that he liked. I'm not going to look too much into that. He's very excitable. Everybody was making fun of him for running down the field last year. He seems to have a lot of excitement. He's got a lot of excitement in his voice. He's an ex-Jet. He's a very, very good cornerback. It starts at the coaching staff. I personally think that they should have just fired everybody. But I guess they fired a couple of guys. Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets did something that I thought was very smart this year. Now, we all know from watching the Detroit Lions that Aaron Glenn is a good defensive coordinator. He did very well in Detroit with not much until they got Aiden Hutchinson, and then that's where a lot of it changed. But that defense of the Detroit Lions not have many superstars. They were often injured, but Aaron Glenn maintained and brought them to championships. Now he's a head coach, big guy on campus. It's your turn to shine. By bringing in a man like Frank Reich, what that tells me is, Aaron Glenn, you're going to run the defense, and Frank Reich, you have my authority to do anything you want to do with the offense. Frank Reich has been a head coach in this National Football League. He coached for the Indianapolis Colts. He played football for years as a quarterback. He was pretty good. He was Boomer Esiason's best friend. That's, a little side note. But Frank Reich looks like he's coming in here with a lot of fire. Looks like he's coming in here with a mindset that this can be a good football team, especially with the moves that they've made in the offseason so far. They've completely upgraded their defense, a defense that was terrible, a defense that was run all over last year, a defense that was made to look like a high school defense, and not even a good high school defense, not even a defense that you see on Friday Night Lights in Texas on a Friday night. Those defenses were better schemed and had better players that played together than the Jets had last year. So Aaron Glenn's going to be able to come in here and focus on the Jets this year, on the Jets defense. One of the big things that they did this year is they got the cornerback from the Ravens and they got Minkah Fitzpatrick. Instantaneously, that gives you a top-level safety and a top-level cornerback. Okay? They got 2 pass rushers, which is definitely in need of a pass rusher. And we're in need of a cornerback because you know why? I don't know if you guys are looking at the stats. You know how many interceptions the Jets had last year? 0. They recovered 1 fumble and had 0 interceptions. Is that on the coaching or is that on the players? Probably on the scheming, probably on the coaching, but also they didn't have any good players. They got let go of Sauce Gardner, which to me, we got a 16th pick for him. He's gone. He's in Indianapolis. And not to mention the fact, 2 weeks in, he blew out his Achilles. I don't know how he's going to be this year, but the cornerback we got from the Ravens this year, to me, he's a better cornerback than Sauce Gardner. I've been talking about Sauce Gardner for the whole 2 years. He was a New York Jet. I don't think the kid is a good football player. He might be fast. He might be able to cover. He doesn't cover like Sauce, like his nickname says, but he's not the bill that we got. He's not the guy that we thought that we were getting. We thought that we were getting the second coming of Darrelle Revis. Not the case. Sauce Gardner was an okay cornerback. Now he's in Indianapolis. See how he does this year. Maybe he'll do a little bit better, but by him leaving, getting that draft pick and being replaced by another cornerback, the Jets defense right now is better than it was last year, tenfold. And having Aaron Glenn run this defense now, hopefully the defense will intercept the ball a little bit more. Hopefully with the 2 defensive linemen that we picked up, we're going to attack the quarterback a little bit more and be relevant and play relevant football. Now, I know I sound like every Jet fan when the season's not on. Let's go Jets. Let's go Jets. You know what? They're my team. Can't leave them. I could say what I want about them. I could hurt them. I could curse them. But you know what? I'm going to be there on opening day cheering for the New York Jets. Now, they made a move that a lot of people are giving the Jets a lot of shit for. Geno Smith. As you well know that Geno Smith, we drafted him from West Virginia. We all know the story about him seeing ghosts. Was that him that was seeing the ghosts? Whatever. Geno Smith did not play too well here. Geno Smith left, went on to have an okay career maybe. 2022, passed for over 4,000 yards, a ton of touchdowns to very minimal interceptions, showing in the right offense he could be a good quarterback. He's been in the league a while now where he could be considered a veteran. Now, just because he didn't play well doesn't mean that he's not in veteran circles, doesn't mean that he's not looking at playbooks, doesn't mean he's not talking to other players. He's been in the league, and he's been playing in the league. Like I said, last year, hopefully, is not a good gauge for the way Geno Smith as a quarterback is going to be for the New York Jets. If we could get even close to 2022, 2003, Geno Smith, maybe this experiment might work. Maybe Frank Reich sees something in him. Maybe Frank Reich could turn Geno Smith into a game-winning quarterback for the New York Jets. He has a good season this year. He could be looking at a big contract. Who knows? But I think ultimately, what I was kind of looking for, and maybe Geno Smith can be, is the Jets got to do something in the draft this year. The Jets have to get a quarterback. Now, look, Fernando Mendoza is going to the Raiders. No way anything's happening otherwise. There is no way Mendoza is going anywhere else but the Raiders. Tom Brady has a big say in what goes on in that organization now. And Tom Brady looks at Fernando Mendoza as the second coming of maybe himself. They added a top center in the league from the Titans to protect him. They still got Ashawn Jeffrey. They got a top-level tight end there. Their offensive line needs some work, and their defense needs some work. But you know what? The Raiders are going for it. And they're going to be built up in the next couple of years. They may be looking at one of the better quarterbacks to come out of this draft. Or at 16, maybe the Jets grab the kid from Alabama, Ty Simpson. Maybe he sits down for a couple of years, maybe a year or two, while Geno Smith kind of like shows him the ropes. Now, I know this sounds a little crazy by talking about Geno Smith showing him the ropes. But again, he's a professional quarterback and he's been in the league for a couple of years and he has played well. Let's give the kid a clipboard. Let's pick Ty Simpson at 16 and let's go. Because at the second overall pick, everybody's talking about this safety and everybody's talking about this cornerback. Jets added a couple pieces to their defense this year that is going to make their defense better. Me, on the other hand, I kind of would rather look at one of these wide receivers. Now, they are talking about this wide receiver, Carnell Tate from Ohio State, as being a complete and utter game changer. He's got great hands. He's fast. He's tough. And to put him on the other side of the ball with him and Garrett Wilson, maybe he could be an instantaneous game changer like Malik Neighbors was for the Giants. Maybe. Geno Smith's got two people to throw the ball to. Garrett Wilson is instantly going to get better with a better quarterback. This kid could come in and start right away because right now you're looking at Adonai Mitchell and Isaiah Williams as our 2 and 3 wide receivers. I hope those guys don't see the field because neither of them did much at all last year. I don't even know if they're going to be playing on this team this year. But if we draft a high-profile, high-level wide receiver for this football team, the Jets are going to be in good shape. Just give me 1 second. I got to plug in my computer. Battery's dying. Let's see. Sorry about that. Browser has lost connection. Uh-oh. What happened here? We still, all right. I lost the connection to my camera here. Let me see. What happened? I'll have to just. All right, we're back. Video's back. Sorry about that. Anyway. All right, anyway, back to football. So the Jets need to pick up somebody. I think they got to go for a wide receiver in this first round here. I think they got to pick up one of these top-level wide receivers to give somebody to Garrett Wilson. They got a running back in Breece Hall that I think is going to have a good season. They threw the franchise tag on him. I don't think he's probably happy about that, but you know what, though? Let's go out there and play some football, and maybe we'll give you a big contract next year. I would actually like to see Braylon Allen get a lot of carries, but Breece Hall, you do have the opportunity to become a big-time running back. You've shown sparks of being a good running back. And to me, at the end of the day, you have to have a big season. Have to. It's important. Your offensive line got better. You have a decent tight end. But I think with your first 2 picks, you need to get one of these wide receivers, and you need to get Ty Simpson as your 16th pick. That's what I think the Jets need to do. And the Jets need to do this to become a better football team. There was all these quarterbacks out there that they were talking about getting. Obviously, they're not getting Mendoza. Everybody's talking about how they're going to tank again to get Arch Manning. Arch Manning and anybody else that they're talking about as becoming a potential NFL quarterback is just that, a potential NFL quarterback. Even Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza has not been playing against men yet. He has not been playing against people that are being paid to kill him. So say all you want. Fernando Mendoza brought Indiana to that championship. He rocked into the end zone, scored that touchdown, beat that Miami defense, and won the Heisman Trophy and won a national championship for Indiana. But again, he has not thrown one pass in the NFL yet. So Fernando Mendoza, good luck to you, because I know Tom Brady is going to be doing everything he can, being that he was a quarterback himself, to surround you with great players. Maybe not in year one, maybe in year two. But again, you have not thrown one single pass in the NFL. All right, so that's my Sunday afternoon take on what's going on in the NFL, the major leagues, and the World Baseball Classic. I'm going to talk a little bit next week about the Final Four. Now, the Final Four in the NCAA tournament, I'm watching. There's a lot of teams that, could win. They couldn't win. Who's your bracket buster? Who should have got in? Who didn't get in? At the end of the day, there's 64 teams. If you get a Cinderella that can make it to the Elite Eight or the Sweet 16, that's nice. But there's probably about a handful of basketball teams in this country that could actually win this national championship. I don't know who it's going to be. Is it going to be St. John's? I have Arkansas, because when I look at these brackets, I don't know shit. So I just look at the coaches. You got Calipari. So the Final Four, to me, everybody thinks that they do these brackets and they know what they're talking about. Nobody knows a goddamn thing about what they're talking about. Everybody looks at these brackets and says, this team is supposed to be good. Oh, look at St. John's. Oh, look at Kansas. Oh, look at this team. This team played well. This team has a strength of schedule. Nobody knows a damn thing. So watch your Final Four today, which I'm going to do. Watch St. John's, because I hope St. John's wins. Duke's going to win. I think UConn's going to win today. Arkansas won last night. I got them winning the whole thing just with Calipari. But watch your Final Four today. Have some fun. And if your bracket gets busted, don't be mad, because when you started that bracket, you had no idea what you were talking about anyway. Next week, with my partner Josh, I do want to get into this wrestling. The NCAA tournament that goes on at the same time as the basketball tournament, the NCAA wrestling tournament. You got schools like Oklahoma, Penn State, Iowa. These are tough men. These are tough individuals. And to come out on top as becoming the best collegiate wrestler in your weight class is a huge deal. I don't know much about it. My partner for Shooting the Breeze, Josh, was a wrestler. That's his thing. And hopefully maybe this week or next week I can get him to come on and talk about it, because I'm going to be watching this year, because they're starting this new league, this RAL league. That's a wrestling league. And it's not the WWE where it's fake. It's the real deal. As a matter of fact, I was watching the other day. There was a huge fight that broke out right in the middle of a wrestling match. Now, those are some pretty big boys to be fighting in the stands like they were doing. But we'll see if this RAL kicks off. You got all these combat sports starting. The UFC is amazing right now. You got this bare knuckle boxing. A lot of these different types of combat sports are trying to come out right now to compete with the UFC, and they're all interesting. Why not give that RAL a chance? All right, so that's going to be next week. So, all right, guys. So this is Keep Talking Sports on Keep Talking 365 at YouTube. I also have a TikTok page, which is Let's Talk 1972. I post a lot of my political videos there, sometimes some sports, but most of my sports content is on my YouTube page, which is Keep Talking 365 at YouTube. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll see you next week.